Hey guys, welcome back. So in this lecture, we'll get a few idea on this blockchain technology to understand in detail about our NFTs.
This video is brought to you by Appy Pie's Academy.
So let's take an spreadsheet example, and let's say there is a client XYZ, and let's say this is a simple bank account for that client. We have a income, an expense, and a balance column. So basically, what happens is when you get a salary. Let's say you got an income of roughly $2,000 in your bank account. So when you get this money, so there is a party, third party, that would be your bank, that would approve this, and thus your balance in your bank account will be $2,000. Once more, say you have to buy something. Let's say you had to buy a laptop for $1,000, or say a mobile phone. And then again, when you go to buy with your credit card, debit card, or when you take out your money in your ATM, then what happens is the bank first of all has to approve that you would have that balance or not. And once you have a balance of that $1,000, more than $1,000 in your bank account, then only you can take that money out from your bank account. So now, since in this case you had $2,000 previously, and now you would like to take out $1,000, so the bank has to approve this. So there is a third party in this between all this transaction, and that is the bank. So you can see here the bank gets to see our spreadsheet. The bank gets to see our transaction. The bank gets to be involved in every transaction. So previously, every system of money transfer used to be controlled by the bank. But now a new concept has emerged with the development of technology and the internet getting popular basically. And this technology has basically try to replace bank. So as I said earlier, for every transaction, the bank needs to approve that transaction. Basically, the bank used to be the one who used to verify. And certainly when banks were only the one to be verified, there used to come a lot of politics, there used to come different sort of scenarios. Now we can discuss this more on different lectures, or perhaps you can see some YouTube videos about why just having one institution or one company being complete control of your money and having an eye on your money is not a good idea. So to replace all this hassle of money transaction between one person to another person, or from one party to another party, the bank had to be removed. So it's not exactly removing the bank, but it's bringing someone next. So for this concept, the blockchain technology has been developed. And in this technology, what happens is that people from around the world, they utilize their computer and their power of their computer to approve this transaction. So now let's talk in brief about the blockchain technology. So basically, the blockchain technology is actually the pillar behind this existence of our non-fungible tokens. Blockchain works as a database so that the transaction can be recorded and validated. As seen in this image, you can see like the blockchain is actually recording and validating the transaction that's taking place. So to understand the blockchain and how it's work, let's see. Let us consider a block. So this block collects some group of information, and then there are data carried by these blocks. Now let us consider multiple such sort of blocks. So each of these blocks have a number and they have a logic sequence. And now when these blocks are on their path of creating chain, then we get to form our blockchain, thus the name blockchain comes. So each of these blocks consist of their own specific number, sort of like serial number. And in this logic sequence, each block has their own hash as a digital print. You can also consider this as sort of digital encryption. So each block not only has a serial number but also information of previous block's number. Thus, there are some mathematical and computational logic involved, and that is why it requires a lot of processing power. So when these numbers are discovered, then these numbers can basically be sold, and the remuneration for the mining of these numbers or the selling of these numbers are available in the cryptocurrencies. So we get the idea of basically how cryptocurrencies came into play. So thus they were the remunerations for discovering the blocks. Thus, just as we had digital currencies like the airline points, in-game currencies before cryptocurrency emerged, we had some non-fungible assets since the dawn of the internet. The domain names, the event tickets, in-game items, even handles on the social networks like Twitter or Facebook are all non-fungible digital assets. They just vary in their tradability and liquidity and perhaps interoperability. So many of these are incredibly valuable. For example, let's say an Epic game, we know Epic Games made 2.4 billion in revenue selling costumes in their free-to-play game Fortnite in 2018 alone. The market for event tickets is projected to reach 68 billion by 2025, and the market for domain names continues to see solid growth. We have tons of digital stuffs that we have never really possessed it. So it's clear that we already have tons of digital assets, but to what extent do we own these digital things? If digital ownership only means that an item belongs to you and not someone else, then you really own them in some sense. But if digital ownership is more like ownership in the physical world, the freedom to hold and transfer indefinitely, this doesn't always seems to be the case with digital asset. Rather, you own these assets in the specific context which may or may not making make money around easily. For instance, try to sell a Fortnite skin on eBay and you will discover the difficulty of moving digital asset from one person to another. This is where blockchains come in. Blockchains provide a coordination layer for digital assets, giving users ownership and management permissions. Blockchains add several unique properties to non-fungible assets that change the user and develop relationship with these assets. So I hope you got the idea about these digital assets, and if you wanted to know more about this digital asset, then you can see my previous lectures. Well, people over the internet wanted to use these cryptocurrencies in order to transfer these assets. But as we all know, Bitcoin is fungible. A fungible thing is not unique. So, something non fungible was required in order to record the transfer of ownership of these digital assets. Something unique, and that will culminate on the existence of non fungible token. So, this need of something non fungible for the digital assets in the blockchain with the power of blockchain gave rise to our non fungible tokens. So let's get back to history about non fungible tokens. So, right after Bitcoin was created, people tried to transfer these digital assets and try to record its ownership. But as you all know, Bitcoin being fungible, so it was quite unsuccessful. So, the first attempt was doing some color coded coins in 2012 so that the ownership of this asset were recorded in transactions using the Bitcoin. This was definitely some improvised version, but as you all know, this was the first attempt. So over the years, 2 years later in 2014, came the second attempt of doing that. So this was counterparty, and it still exists to this date. So, but Bitcoin transactions, in order to record the information, was basically used in this counterparty. Now, coming in 2017, we have CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks. These two uh, non fungible tokens used Ethereum. So instead of using Bitcoin, people started using Ethereum in order to these digital assets transaction, and thus Ethereum became the new digital asset medium for NFTs. So why this Ethereum came into action is because they had something which Bitcoin lacked. That was the smart contracts. So we'll see more about the smart contracts in our next lecture. So that's all for this lecture, and I'll see you on the next one now.